People always say you know when something's off in your marriage. What they don't tell you is that sometimes it feels perfect right up until the moment it falls apart. We were the couple people pointed at and said, "That's what I want one day." Neighbors, coworkers, even the barista with a man bun and too many opinions. Everyone assumed we were the picture. Big smiles in every photo. Coordinated outfits during the holidays. She even made a scrapbook about our trip to Florence, complete with pressed flowers from the Tuscan countryside. It's still on our coffee table. Because even illusions deserve presentation. Her name was Lena. Is Lena, I guess. But back then, she was sunlight with a mortgage. A woman who could make grocery shopping feel like foreplay. She had this way of humming when she cooked, always off-key but confident, like the universe had no choice but to get on beat with her. And I was the lucky guy. That's what people said. The guy who brought her coffee every morning, always the same way. Half a sugar, splash of oat milk, one cinnamon stick balanced on the rim like some kind of caffeinated sculpture. She called it her morning poem. I called it Tuesday. But the thing about poems is, sometimes they stop rhyming. And you don't notice until the silence sounds louder than her hum. It started small. Doesn't it always? She stopped asking how my day was. Her phone stopped dying, even though she used to plug it in at 9% like a gambler chasing one last charge. And then there was the scent. Her perfume changed. Same bottle, but different somehow. Like someone else had chosen it for her. I didn't say anything. I chalked it up to stress. Deadlines. Hormones. Mercury in retrograde. Pick a reason. I had a spreadsheet for everything else in life. Surely I could chart my way through this. We still had date nights. Still laughed. Still made love. But there was something in her eyes, some flicker, like she was watching a different movie than me and didn't want to spoil the plot. And then came the dinner. I had just gotten home from work. She was already chopping onions, humming, smiling, like we were in some vintage sitcom rerun where marital bliss came prepackaged. I leaned against the counter, watching her, and I remember thinking, God, I hope this is real. But then her phone buzzed. Just once. She didn't check it. That was the first red flag. Lena always checked her phone. She once paused a movie during the climax just to read a text about someone's cat needing surgery. But that night, she stared at the cutting board like the onions were whispering government secrets. I didn't ask, and she didn't offer. She said, "I love you," that night, but it landed like a voicemail, technically received, but no urgency behind it. We ate dinner in front of the TV. Something about whales. A documentary she picked. Normally we'd be snarking through the narration, making up names for the marine biologists, and arguing over which whale had the better arc. But tonight, she just watched, silent, almost reverent. She laughed once. I looked over too quickly. Reflex. I was starving for her laughter like it was some signal I was still in the room with her. But when she laughed, she didn't look at me. That's the thing. When someone you love starts giving their best smiles to spaces you can't see, you start inventorying everything. Every glance. Every sentence. You become a collector of micro-expressions and tonal shifts. I remember her saying, "I'm just tired." That phrase used to mean something. Now it felt like a hall pass. Like she was asking for permission to disappear in plain sight. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. Her side of the bed smelled different. Not bad, just not Lena. Like the detergent changed, or maybe the pillow wasn't holding her scent anymore. You don't think about those things when you're happy. Only when you're quietly unraveling in the middle of the night, counting the distance between two bodies lying inches apart. I rolled over and said her name. She answered too fast, like she hadn't been sleeping either. "Are we okay?" I asked, real soft, like I was afraid of scaring the truth out of her. She reached for my hand under the blanket, gave it one of those squeezes that's supposed to be reassuring. But her fingers didn't linger. No rub of the thumb. No second squeeze. "Of course," she said. "Why wouldn't we be?" And I wanted to say, "Because I don't think you're really here right now." But instead, I said, "I love you." She kissed my cheek. And just like that, I knew. She wasn't in love anymore. Not in the dramatic way you see in movies. No shouting, no suitcase by the door. Just this absence. A quiet vacancy. Like she'd packed up her heart in the middle of the night and left a really convincing hologram in its place. But still, I had no proof. Just the kind of ache that doesn't go away with sleep. So the next morning, I did something I'm not proud of. I opened her laptop. You never think it'll be your hands trembling over a trackpad, heart pounding like you're robbing your own home. But there I was. I didn't go looking for betrayal. That's the part that sticks with me. I wasn't digging. I wasn't snooping. I just wanted confirmation that my paranoia was exactly that, mine. The laptop lid lifted with a soft click, like a whisper before a scream. She always kept it open on the dining table, half covered with notebooks and receipts and the kind of chaos she called creative clutter. Lena was organized in the way a painter's studio is messy, but every smear had intention. She'd left it on sleep mode. One tap, and it was awake. Chrome. 5 tabs open. The usual suspects. Pinterest, Gmail, a recipe site. And then one that didn't match the others. New login. Daniel's iCloud. I don't know why I clicked. I shouldn't have. But I did. And it opened me up like a floodgate. His name was Daniel. Generic. Safe. But that tab had messages. Synced. Loaded. Left behind like someone who never imagined they'd be found out. There weren't hundreds. Just a few. But they were enough. Missed you today. That dress yesterday, unfair. You free Thursday night? I can get that wine you liked. I keep thinking about your laugh. That little snort when you're trying not to be too loud. My stomach dropped. Because I knew that snort. I teased her about it for years. She used to hide her face in my chest whenever it happened. She had given that laugh away to someone else. There were no photos. No confessions. Nothing explicit. Just intimacy. It was worse than I expected, and not nearly dramatic enough to be dismissed. I closed the laptop gently, like it might explode if I moved too fast. My palms were sweating. My mouth felt like paper. I sat there at the table, surrounded by the ghosts of candlelit dinners and late-night brainstorms, thinking, this is how it happens. This is how you find out you become the extra in your own love story. I didn't confront her. Not that day. I made her coffee. Like always. Half a sugar. Splash of oat milk. 1 cinnamon stick. She took it with a thank you kiss on the cheek. That kiss used to mean everything. Now it felt like the receipt from a transaction already voided. And yet I smiled. Played along. Because I needed time. Not to forgive. To plan. I started rehearsing my smile in the mirror, not out of vanity, but strategy. There's something unnerving about realizing your daily expressions have become performance art. That morning, as Lena showered, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, toothbrush idle in my hand, practicing the version of me she expected to see. The half laugh, the nonchalant nod, the polite hum of someone too stable to suspect anything. Because if I cracked too soon, she'd close the vault. Whatever version of her still needed to pretend this was a marriage, it would vanish. And I needed her to keep pretending for now. I needed more than messages. I needed patterns. Context. Leverage. So I smiled. I nodded. I became the version of myself that made it easy for her to cheat. We went about life in perfect choreography. Dinners, laundry, weekend grocery runs. She'd hum as she folded dish towels. I'd pretend not to watch her phone light up. I memorized the time she got text messages, always around 11:30 a.m. and 6:10 p.m. lunch break. After work. Routine. Affair by schedule. One night, as we watched a true crime documentary, Lena laughed when the suspect was caught with a burner phone. Amateurs, she said. I nodded slowly, sipping my drink, letting the moment stick like a thorn. And that's when the next layer began. I bought a notebook. Plain black cover. No title. I kept it in the drawer where we kept spare batteries and expired coupons, someplace she never checked. In it, I documented everything. Dates. Times. Her phrases. Her mood swings. The perfume she wore when she thought I wouldn't notice. The details were sharp. Almost surgical. Tuesday, May 3rd. Lipstick on wine glass. Not her usual shade. Smelled like peony. Thursday, May 5th. She laughed at nothing. Phone buzzed. Didn't check until I left the room. Saturday, May 7th. Deleted call log. Only one entry remained. Unknown number. Duration. 14 minutes. I wasn't paranoid. I was preparing. Because what do you do when someone rewrites your life in invisible ink? You grab a black light and read every hidden word. And slowly, those invisible words spelled something brutal. She wasn't just having an affair. She was building a future without me in it. She mentioned a work trip coming up. 3 nights. Coastal city. Big pitch. But I already knew that city. Daniel lived there. I'd found his LinkedIn. He worked in real estate development, flashy titles, flashy smile. The kind of guy who probably said things like synergy and wore loafers without socks. She never said his name. Not once. But his shadow lived in our kitchen. Our bedroom. Her voice. One night, she left her iPad charging on the desk. Normally locked. That night, it wasn't. A message popped up from a contact saved as Jade. Curious name for someone whose opening line was, "Booked the hotel. Same room as last time. Can't wait." I took a screenshot, emailed it to myself. Then, without touching another thing, I set the iPad back on its charger and walked out of the room. This wasn't about catching her anymore. It was about documenting the structure of the lie she was living in. The next morning, I made pancakes. Extra cinnamon, just how she liked them. She smiled at the plate like nothing had changed. "Big week ahead," she said. I nodded, chewing slowly. "Think you'll close the deal?" She grinned. "I always do." She didn't know I'd already booked a flight to the same city. Not the same hotel. That would be messy. But nearby. Quiet. Strategic. I wasn't going to confront her. I was going to observe. Record. Gather the final pieces. A clean betrayal deserves a clean dismantling. Not with rage, but with precision. That week, we kissed goodbye at the airport. Her suitcase rolled smoothly across the linoleum. She turned at the security line, gave me a little wave. The kind people give strangers who just held the elevator door. She didn't know I'd be arriving there the next morning. She flew out expecting a weekend affair. What she didn't expect was that I'd be checking into the same lie with a front row seat. The flight was quiet, but my mind was a riot. I boarded with a carry-on, a fake itinerary, and the kind of adrenaline you only get when your life is quietly splitting down the middle. She had texted me before takeoff. "Boarding now. I'll call when I land. Love you." 2 lies and 1 habit. She was already gone by then. Her flight left at 6:40 a.m. I watched it lift off from the terminal bar, sipping bad coffee and pretending not to notice the guy next to me oversharing about his fantasy football league. I arrived 5 hours later. Same city. Different story. Checked into a boutique hotel 3 blocks from hers, just upscale enough to keep from asking questions, but discreet enough to let me pay in cash. Room 308. Faux modern decor. Abstract art. Complimentary wine bottle I didn't touch. I didn't come for comfort. I came for clarity. My first stop was the hotel bar at her place. Business casual men laughed over bourbon. A couple of conference lanyards swung from necks like grown-up security blankets. I spotted her almost instantly. She was seated by the window. Red dress. Hair down. Smiling into her wine glass like it held all the secrets she'd ever get away with. And then Daniel. As glossy as I imagined. Polished shoes. That smug posture of a man who's never worried about consequences. He leaned in, hand grazing hers across the table. I watched her tilt her head, let him whisper something that made her laugh. The sound punched me in the chest. That laugh wasn't mine anymore. I didn't confront them. I didn't flinch. I took a photo, timestamped it, and walked out. Later that night, I tracked their movements because her phone synced automatically to our shared cloud account. She never turned off location sharing. Probably forgot it was even on. A tech oversight. Or maybe arrogance. They were in room 419. Same floor she used last quarter during her actual conference. Maybe she liked the familiarity. Maybe she just liked the lie. At 11:03 p.m., her location stopped moving. I waited 20 minutes, then walked the hallway. I didn't do anything dramatic. Just paused outside the door. Listened. Laughter. Clinking glasses. Music. Frank Sinatra. Of course. I slipped a small envelope under the door. Inside was a photo of her and Daniel from the bar. Printed. Not digital. Old school. Real. On the back, I'd written only 1 line. "You don't know what I know." Then I left. Quietly. Cleanly. Strategically. The next morning, I checked her messages again. The sync worked perfectly. Her first text wasn't to me. It was to Daniel. "Did you see that? Someone slid a photo under our door. What the hell? Do you think it was staff?" He replied with a single sentence that told me everything I needed. He's not that smart. I smiled. That evening, I did something unexpected. I called her. She picked up on the second ring. Her voice didn't even wobble. "Hey, babe," she said. "Just wrapping up dinner. Exhausted. How's home?" "Oh, I replied. "Just the usual. Thinking about you." "Ah," she said, all honey and convenience. "I'll be back soon." I said nothing. The silence dragged just long enough to shake her confidence. "Everything okay?" "Never better," I said. "I left you something under your door. Hope it made you smile." There it was. The inhale. Sharp. A little ragged. "What?" "Sinatra's a nice touch," I added. "But you always did like reruns." I hung up. 10 minutes later, her phone went offline. Not turned off. Disconnected. She was panicking, scrambling, probably yelling, maybe crying, most likely lying to him this time, to herself, to whatever mirror she dared to look into. Me? I took the long way back to my hotel, picked up takeout, sat by the window in room 308, eating sesame noodles while the city flickered beneath me. I didn't sleep much that night, but it wasn't rage keeping me up. It was relief, because now I had everything I needed. The evidence, the reactions, the confession hiding between silences. She wasn't careful because she didn't think she had to be. She thought I was background noise, a beige blur behind her red dress and borrowed laughs. But she forgot the one thing you never forget in a marriage. Nobody knows your patterns better than the person you think you fooled. The next step wasn't revenge, it was revelation, and I planned to deliver it like a gift she'd never forget. The truth isn't a hammer, it's a mirror, and I was about to hold it up. I didn't rush. That was the beauty of it. No slamming doors. No public scenes. No gotcha moments in a hotel lobby. I wasn't chasing her guilt. I was letting it find its own reflection. By the time Lena flew home, the storm in her head had already started to swirl. I could tell the moment she stepped into the house. She called out my name, upbeat, like a performance for an invisible audience. Her voice echoed into the silence, our silence, and landed flat. She stood in the doorway for a second too long. I watched from the top of the stairs, out of sight. She didn't know I was home. She didn't know what I'd moved. The photos were gone from the mantle. The ones of us in Florence, in the cabin, at my brother's wedding, replaced with blank frames. I wanted her to see the absence, to feel the missing pieces. In the kitchen, she noticed next the wine rack. Half her bottles were missing. Not stolen, just rotated out. The label she kept for special occasions? Gone. And on the fridge, where the Florence magnet used to sit, I'd left one single photograph. Printed. Old school. Same style as the one I slid under her hotel door. This time it was her in room 419's hallway. Lips inches from his ear. Caught mid-laugh. On the back. Smile for the camera. I did. She stared at it for almost 2 full minutes. I timed it. Then, finally, her voice cracked. What is this? I came down the stairs slowly. Not dramatic, just deliberate. What does it look like? I asked. She turned, startled. She hadn't realized I was home, that I'd been home before she even landed. Her eyes were wide, glossy. Panic, not sorrow. She was already reaching for the narrative, already fishing for a version that could be forgiven. Wait, this isn't. I raised a hand. Calm, not angry. You don't have to explain. She blinked. Twice. I don't understand. That's the thing, I said. You don't have to. I walked past her, opened the drawer where we kept keys, pins, and the junk of married life. Pulled out a small black envelope. This is for you. She didn't take it at first, just stared at it like it might bite. But eventually, she reached for it with trembling fingers. Inside was a USB drive, labeled simply, Playback. What's on this? She asked. Everything, I said. Text threads, photos, cloud backups, screen recordings, location logs. Every breadcrumb she thought would vanish into digital smoke. She opened her mouth again, some new excuse probably halfway formed. But I beat her to it. I don't need an apology, Lena. I need closure. And I'm giving you the same. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You're leaving. I already left, I said. This is just the formality. She tried again. Wait, you're blowing up our life over a few. Wrong sentence, I said calmly. Try again. Okay, she backpedaled. You're misunderstanding. Also incorrect. Then I leaned in just slightly, not with aggression, but with clarity. I didn't collect all this to destroy you, Lena. I collected it because one day you were going to say I was crazy, or cold, or distant. And I needed to know the truth before I became a story you rewrote for sympathy. Her eyes welled up, but still no tears. Only self-preservation. Why didn't you just confront me? I did, I said. Every day. With my silence. With my trust. With my choice to stay when something already felt missing. She looked away. Of course she did. The truth has a gravity to it. And now came the gift. Also, I added, walking toward the hall closet, I had something delivered while you were gone. She followed, hesitant, confused. I pulled out a small package. Black box. Velvet lining. Not flashy. Just elegant enough to hurt. She opened it. Inside, the necklace I bought her 3 years ago. The one I gave her on our 10th anniversary. The one she said she lost last month. It wasn't lost. It was in Daniel's glove compartment. Found it during my last visit to his office. You'd be surprised what you can access with a fake maintenance badge and the right timing. She gasped. He gave this back? No, I said. He didn't know it wasn't his to give. I walked past her again, leaving her in the hallway with the box and the weight of her rewritten script. Back in the kitchen, I placed one last envelope on the table. This one labeled, for the lawyers. It's not revenge, I said as she stumbled in after me. It's just documentation. I'm not ruining your life. I'm just handing it back to you. She said nothing. No denials. No sobs. No pleading. Just a woman suddenly aware that her control had expired. And I felt nothing but clarity. Not joy. Not rage. Just the clean, cold peace of a man who had finally stepped out of a house built on lies. I walked out the door without slamming it, but I left it open, just wide enough for the draft of consequences to follow her in. It wasn't silence that greeted me, it was the echo of choices left behind. Plot development. A week has passed since I walked out. The house is empty, no laughter, no hum of the kettle, just wind in the sliding door. I narrate my morning routine as if reading eulogy notes for a life I once built. I revisit the places we shared, the kitchen island where breakfast became religion, the shower where morning confessions happened, the couch where we whispered hopes. But everything is vacant, absent her and the lies. I sit at the countertop, steam from my coffee fogging the silence. My inner monologue wrestles with guilt and relief. I'm free, yes, but freedom laced with mourning. I replay decision after decision, asking myself, did I break it, or did I break free? Then I get the first sign her world is unraveling too. I open my phone to see 7 missed notifications from her lawyer, then a voicemail from her mother, then a single text from Lena. We need to talk. I stood at the threshold of our home, coffee cooling in my hand, and realized the ghost I'd left behind was coming back with teeth. We meet in that same hallway. She's apologetic but not defeated. Her voice is measured, rehearsed. I narrate her attempt to reclaim the moral high ground, talk of forgiveness, second chances, still unstable promises of, we can fix this. It's the first time I see desperation crack her veneer. I listen. I don't respond. Internal monologue reveals my struggle. Part of me wants to say yes. After all, we had years, memories. But the weight of evidence, the notebook, the USB, the lost necklace, they press on me like a reminder. I ask her to explain. She stutters, then brings up a therapy psychologist. A mistake. And it meant nothing. But I see through it. Power shifts. I speak calmly. Divorce proceedings, shared custody potential, financial terms. I tell her I'll give no more speeches, just documentation. I demand honesty from now on. She nods, shakes, but I sense resolve. Months pass. I narrate our divorce by document. Meeting with lawyers. Signing financial disclosures. Custody schedules for our golden retriever, Ellie. We're adults, they say, but every legal form twists memories into contracts. I get snippets of her life with Daniel spilled into depositions. We're professional, polite, but the undercurrent is death by 1,000 polite cuts. I reflect on how betrayal changes you. It rewires emotions. Weekends alone, renting an apartment while we sell the house. Nights with friends, laughter tasting strange without her. Therapy sessions. Journal entries. I grapple with grief, identity, rebound impulses. I'm free, but I'm also unmoored. One day, she sends back the necklace via courier. It arrives in velvet box, no note. I hold it. My internal voice wonders if I'm satisfied. I slip it into my safe. It's over. Or is it? A year later, I've moved into a new apartment. Still unpacking. I start filming voiceover on camera. A thank you video to myself. I recount the trauma, the climb back. I speak directly into the lens. Here's what I build afterward. Honesty, peace, a life where I don't have to rehearse my smiles anymore. Cut to a dinner party. Friends laugh. I speak often now, without pretense. I watch myself through a window's reflection, unburdened, stable. But something unsettles me. Late that night, I log into the cloud drive, something I never erased. In a hidden file labeled playback_final, I have recordings from her hotel room, muffled whispers. I listen. I hear Lena's voice, trembling. What have I done? And Daniel's. It was never about you. Pause. Then Lena, smaller. I lost more than a necklace. But then clear as day, I hear a phrase she spoke during our marriage. I love you more than home. It's loyalty, despair, and ownership rolled into 4 words. Not meant for me, but to him. I pause. This is my final act. I upload a clean copy to the shared cloud folder, labeled lena_revelation.mp4, and email the link to all 200-plus guests invited to our upcoming wedding anniversary party she still plans, forgetting I left. It's dated 1 week away. Her leads, our friends, her colleagues, all get the video invitation. In it, me, calm, in a tuxedo, holding the necklace. I smile. I wondered what I'd say if I could speak at our anniversary. I thought about toasting forgiveness. Instead, I'm toasting clarity. I click play. The playback record begins. The whispers. Her voice cracks. Total silent horror across the slideshow. Cut to black.